All right, so I'm just getting set up to do the live inking of my Popeye, Spider Popeye picture. Gonna wait till probably about 5-ish, and to actually get started. That'll give me some time to invite some people. This drawing came about. I like doing these mashups like Popeye and Spider-Man mixed together, stuff like that. It's fun for me. Whether it's fun for anybody else, I don't care. But it's fun for me, and that's what's important. But I was doing a drawing session with my middle school students online, and since I only had 2 students show up, I asked them what they would want to learn how to draw. Do they want to learn how to draw Popeye, or do they want to learn how to draw Spider-Man? And since there were only 2 students and one chose each, I decided to go ahead and choose both. So I combined the two. And this has kind of become an iconic moment in the first Spider-Man movie, where with Mary Jane and Spider-Man in the rain. So I thought I'd parody it. And some of you may have gotten an invitation because I wanted to invite some of my former high school art students. Some people I just wanted to bother because that's how I work. Maybe you know somebody who might be interested in it too. All right, it is actually right now 5 o'clock, so I've done all the inviting I'm going to do. I try to start with a light line when I'm inking, and I try to start on the right-hand side since I'm left-handed. I will say one of the things I like about the drawing on camera is that you guys can't always see all the mistakes I make. Because I'll fumble and I'll be like, oh God, that looks awful. And then I look at the screen and it's like, that's the most beautiful thing I've done in ages. And nobody knows the wiser because I see it in my head. I'm trying to get more into drawing with like a brush tip pen. It's still pretty new to me. So I'm trying it out today, taking my time with it. The nice thing about the brush tip is I can go thinner or I can go thicker with the line. But I do tend to go thicker. Unfortunately, because I used watercolor on this, the paper is all wrinkled and this isn't top quality. I just was drawing it with my students. Wasn't worrying about permanence with it. This is just a fun little project. It's something different that they probably haven't done before. And all 2 of them seem to enjoy it. if you haven't been watching any of my videos or paying attention to any of my posts, I've been doing a lot of Popeye artwork. First off, because I love Popeye. Secondly, because this year marks the 90th anniversary of Popeye the Sailor. January 17th, to be specific, was the first appearance of Popeye. And it's the 100th anniversary of Olive Oil. She was actually created in December 18th, 1919, in the Thimble Theater comic strip. See, another nice thing about doing this on camera is I can see how it looks kind of from a distance without actually having to get up out of my chair. Or speak clearly, apparently, too. I'm not going to do all of the webbing just yet. I want to save that for when I start doing the thin lined inking, because I don't want my webs to overpower the image. I don't want it to take over. And I'm going to add a little bit of shadow under here. And there's some shadow under here. Oops, gotta ink his little booty here. And no, not his butt. Brian, if you're still there, and Phyllis, if you're still here, thank you for coming. Alicia, if you're still here, thanks for coming. And see, a lot of times underneath the chin and underneath the head, I would have a shadow, but because he's upside down, it kind of reverses everything. So I have to be careful where I do my shading. Unfortunately, my skills drawing, I still do very sketchy drawing where I don't do solid lines very well. I still do like a sketchy look. So I have to cover up those sketch lines if I don't erase them when I ink. Let's see, we want to add a little bit of weight to the bottom of his head here with some thicker outline. Same with his nose. Of course, on camera, you can't even see the difference. That's weird. Just like with the shoulders, I might want to add some thicker lines to the shoulders, and then they thin out as they head downward. And I don't want to do a whole lot of shading with this because I worry that when I do the shading, it's going to start to overpower the picture. And then we get to good old olive oil, ever so fickle. Now in the comic strip in the ECC art created, olive oil was fickle, which means she was always, jumping from. She loved Popeye, but she's always keeping an eye out for something better, basically. And in the comic strip, she did that too, but nowhere near as bad as in the Fleischer Studios cartoons and the Famous Studios cartoons. It's one of the reasons why I favor the comic strips more. Now, because I did a watercolor painting over top of my pencils here, I can't erase any pencil lines that I want to get rid of, so I have to try to kind of cover them up. And feel free to type in some questions or comments. I'm more than happy to talk while I'm doing this. I don't want to use the brush pen on everything. I'm trying to give Olive Oil more of like messy hair because she's in the rain. It looks like I have to. For some reason, I forgot to draw her arm there, so I'm going to have to fix that. And being the genius that I am, I can't remember what red I used for her shirt. I want to have some broken lines in the sky, trying to depict a little bit of showing a little bit of motion and movement and drops of water. Thank you for coming, those of you who are here. I'm going to try something I know I shouldn't. It's not too bad. Drawing a line through the character. And see, I also want to try to get a different, I don't want to just use my brush tip pen because I want to have some different thicknesses and lines, some line differentiation. I don't do a lot of rain scenes because I always get kind of worried that I'm going to overdo it. It's my own personal paranoia. Oh, that was awful. All right, now I need to, I already colored her hand, so I need to color her sleeve. And I'm not sure if this is what I used. I really hope it is. So we'll find out the hard way. You know what? I think I used ink. I didn't use a brush. Or I don't think I used a marker. That doesn't look too bad, though. I'll stick with it. But I think I used ink and brush. Which, if you know me, that's pretty bold for me. Pretty daring. I don't experiment that often. Well, the nice thing about this is I can touch up some of these areas where something like some water hit the ink or something and thinned it out where I don't want it to be thin. I can darken some areas. Beauty. There. And then, now what I can do is I can come to my thinner, my smaller tip pens and start to do Popeyes. And I can do it on the side here. Do thinner lines for the webbing on his costume for Spider Popeye. That way they're still visible, oops, but they're not overpowering. Especially on camera. Wow, you can't even see them. So the pen that I'm using is a .005. A micro pen, I think is what they call themselves. Micro tip, something like that. Whenever I do these videos, I always feel very Bob Rossi, not in technique, but just in the way I talk. I feel like I'm talking calmer. I feel like I should be talking about doing happy little lines. But then when I talk like that, it also sounds like I'm talking about something other than drawing happy little lines. And that is not something I do. Now let me try a different thickness of tip here. You can see some of the lines that I drew, but not all of them. How are we doing on time? 22 minutes? Oh, that's pretty typical. Yeah, see, this line is easier to see, but at the same time, it's too close to the brush lines that I did. I did another mashup similar to this with Popeye, where I did Popeye and his friends as the Fantastic Four. I should finish that up. Because my favorite superhero character, or traditional superhero character, I should say, is the Thing from the Fantastic Four. And that's what I made Popeye into, was the Thing, because, you know, of course, Popeye is very strong. That looks weird. Don't know why I did that. Maybe I'll darken some of these lines that are closer to the shadows. And the closer it gets to the light, then the lighter the lines will become. See, like I said, right now I'm just bringing in the webbing on the mask, and for the most part I'll be done. I might bring in some more lines for rain, some like thinner lines. I'm going to bring in some shading around the belly and the ribs so his arm sticks out a little bit more. But I don't want to use the pen for that. Oops. I want to use the brush pen. With the smaller pen, I can go into a little bit more, not depth, but what's the word I was looking for? Go into certain spaces instead of just being so random and bring in some lines. So, oops, bring a little bit of cast shadow under her nose, thicken the line under her nose to give it a little bit more weight to it. And I think what I might do is also, with my handy dandy brush pen, where'd it go? I have very limited space here, and yet I still lose things. It's the weirdest thing. There we go. Thicken this line. Eventually, like later today or something, I'll try to load this onto YouTube, mainly just so the students who were drawing this along with me will be able to work along with it. Bring in a little bit of roundness for his arm by using some cross hatching and hatching without making it too dark. And then the Coup de Gracie artist signature. Usually I don't take this long to write my name, but I'm trying to get the lines to be thicker. I'll use a better pen. Always take credit for the work that you do, and also, without trying to sound like Dr. Seuss, make sure you give credit where credit is due. So what I'm going to do is, since I use somebody else's characters, I try to. Sometimes I forget, or sometimes I don't have room. I try to give credit. So like Popeye and Olive, created by E.C. Segar. And no, not Popeye. Wow. Spider-Man. Always remember to hyphenate Spider-Man. Stan Lee always made it an issue to emphasize that Spider-Man is hyphenated. It's not Spider-Man, it's Spider-Man. Now there are two different people who created Spider-Man, Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. And that is it for today. Does anybody have any questions or comments before I go? Since this is live, you get the opportunity to make fun of me in front of others, or ask a question. Jeremy, I'm done. Perfect timing. So this is basically the final piece. Except, you know what? I'm not too keen with the... Here, I want to bring in some lines. And maybe some drops coming from behind him. Doesn't make a big difference, but it makes a difference to me. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Have yourselves a good weekend. And I hope you had fun. I know I did. That sounds so enthusiastic too, didn't it?